So today actually I am going to as such not take up the explanation or summarizing the poem which you are already aware of. The poem The Road Not Taken. I am going to implement in that poem two things, two or more things, how much ever possible for the time being. So I'm going to use the learner-centric pedagogy of case study, experiential learning, and if possible, the different literary devices, and of course, art integrated learning also. So these are the things I thought I will be dealing with today. How we can relate this to the poem. I've just given a brief introduction about Robert Frost. He was a high school teacher, college professor, and well-renowned poet. Of course, he was born in California. But what happened, his father was a journalist. So he had come to California thinking that he could do well, but he had a sudden death. So the mother took the children and went back to England. Actually, they are English by birth. So there he did his schooling, high school and all. So first he wrote his, in high school, he started writing poetry. When he did that, My Butterfly and Elegy, he was able to sell it for 15 pounds actually. Sorry, $15 he was able to give it. So he now did not like to go into the normal routine of his school life and all that. So he decided that let me go into writing poetry. So what he did, he started out from the normal routine of schooling and other things, and he came out. But he was not very popular, even though he was not able to sell his books and all those things. By then he got married and he had a family. All those things happened. He thought of what he did was he had to, by then there was World War I, for which he had to move into World War I. He took part, he came to US. He did his, I just got back. He did his schooling, everything in US only. And then when his poems were not being accepted here, he moved to England. So he went to London and he sold all his farm and other things. If you see, most of Robert Frost's poetry will be all nature oriented because he was working in a farm. So most of nature poetry is like Stopping by the Woods on the Snowy Evening, which is a very famous poem of Robert Frost. So he moved to London, tried to publish it, and there he started becoming famous and he was able to publish his poetry, book of poems. So then he had to come back to US. By then he came back to US, by word of mouth, his poetries were became famous in US. So when it became famous, he moved to, after the First World War, he had to take part in the First World War from US. So he participated in that, and by then his poetries have become famous. And he started concentrating more on writing his poetry. So why I'm talking about so much about Robert Frost, it is because of his case study. So I'm taking a case study of Robert Frost. See, it is what is a case study? It's an analysis, is a form of academic writing which analyzes a situation, event, place, or a person to form a conclusion. So we wanted to form a conclusion of Robert Frost. So that's why I so much told about Robert Frost. So it is a useful phenomenon that is we come to know by our own personal experience or from teaching. See, for example, they are useful phenomena that cannot be studied in a lab. It is not something written which we can write. Even though Robert Frost is no more now, we are talking about him because we are talking about his life experience, how he was able to come up with the ladder of success. So case studies are very useful for us in teaching in the classroom. So how do we go about writing case study? So the case study should have a title, the student's name, then educational instructor's name, and the course name, of course, what course the student is doing. Then you give an introduction or the summary, and the body consists of all the three important details, as usual, how we write an essay, then conclusion. So example I have told you about Robert Frost. And even if you have the famous author J.K. Rowling, if you take of Harry Potter, her books were never famous. First, she went back. Then slowly, when slowly it started picking up, now it is one of the best sellers. So it is maximum books of hers are being sold. So she also came up the hard way. So in this context, can anybody tell any your own personal experience in the school? Then I will share something which I have had in my school. I could like to share it with you. Did you have any problematic child or somebody in the class, and how you were able to change him, or was it possible for him to attend classes, things like that? Can anyone share with what you had in your school scenario? Anybody would like to share how you went about? See, you may not be writing as the case study, but you would have had that experience of going through that. Yes? See, as teachers, we all come across so many difficulties in our classroom situation, isn't it? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So when we come across, how did you manage that? Just that I want some examples from your side before I could share something. Can any one of you can tell, narrate something? You are not able to, okay, first I will narrate. Then by then you think about it, and because offhand when I ask, you are not able to get it to your mind, isn't it? You might not be remembering it. So let me tell from my point of view, how in my 20 years of teaching in DAV, what all, some one or two experiences that I have got into. See, first one student, we have Saturday school, okay. One boy never used to attend Saturday school. He used to always take leave. Saturdays means it is a long weekend for him. So what happened? See, by informing the parent, things like that did not work. Then we had to use other methods. Like I kept on talking to the boy. I told him, see, Saturday also we are having important assessment and all those things, and it is also long 1 hour period than compared to other days, and you will have your PT period also on Saturday, so it will be a kind nice relaxation for you. So why don't you try coming one Saturday? I told him. When I spoke to him, he was able to consider it. He gave me some excuses. I don't want to mention the student's name. He said, no, my mother also does not get up in the Saturdays, ma'am. She gets up late only. She's having Saturday, Sunday, both the days off. My father and mother are software engineers. They are, both of them are having off. So if I have to start on Saturday, almost like I have to get the breakfast ready, or get some fast food or something which I have to buy on the way. Only my driver will come to drop me and all those things. His problems, he told me. Then I told him, see, they have been working for 5 days a week and they are having long hours of work. You go back home at 3:30 every day. 3 o'clock school gets over, but you go back home by a maximum by 3:30 you reach home. So they have their well-earned rest for the 2 days. Why do you compare them? They have already chosen their career and they are into it. But you are in your formative age. So why don't you try coming 1 or 2 Saturdays? I just tried to coax him. So first what he did, once in a month, he used to come. And he used to really enjoy PT. So slowly kept on talking to him repeatedly. His attendance very much improved on Saturdays. So this change, I used to pull him up in the class and tell, see, now he has attended. He has changed over. So I made him as an example, but at the same time, I did not tell him, I didn't make him like a caricature in the classroom for others to laugh at. I only talked about his improvement in studies and improvement in making the attendance careful, because sometimes when we pull them up for examples, especially when in 8th and 9th standard, what happens? He becomes a laughing stock. Everybody laughs at him. He has not been attending Saturdays. So I ensured that it did not happen and only talked about his good points or the positive points about him. So students also started thinking that what this is possible. So what ma'am is saying is right. At least even if the whole class doesn't, at least 5% or 1% of the students start thinking about it, we feel that we have achieved something. Don't use case studies. So see, when you are in a school, when there is a co-education school or any such thing, you can have a case study like this to prepare students for jobs that haven't been created yet. We need to teach them how to become to be great problem solvers so that they'll be ready for anything. So one way to do this is by teaching content and skills using real world case studies. So that's what I told. The real world case studies is that the poem that we are going to do is Robert Frost and J.K. Rowling. I brought in all those things. So a learning model that is focused on reflection during the problem solving process. So when we are counseling the child also, we have to tell our own personal experience or something to make that this boy was not all right, how he was able to make it up. All those things you may have to approach. So it is similar to project-based learning and more focused on students creating the product. So we have to see that the students come out with this. So we can assign them some duties, like we can ask them, we can tell them to do such projects. How can we limit food waste in cafeteria? How can we get our school to recycle the composite waste? Or how can we improve school attendance? But here, everywhere, our teacher's role plays a very important role. We can give them as projects, but what we have to do, we have to pitch in some ideas for them. Give them our feedbacks. Give them our little bit, put in feedback of given our ideas so that they go on those lines. How can we reduce the number of people who get sick, especially during this Corona time and other things? We have to tell about the protocol session. Sorry, my it ran away. How we can reduce the number of people who get sick at school during cold and flu season. Not only that season, because it is during our Corona times, how many of them don't follow protocols, how we can make them leaders and tell the others, make them to follow others, and how they were able to see. For example, if you take in our school, many of us, we were all coming to school. You also 9th and 10th, all of us, even during Corona time, we were going to school, bringing the students, 10th and 12th students. But we were able to manage without much cases of the pandemic affecting the students, isn't it? How we were able to manage? First, we got ourselves educated, and then we, of course, passed it on to the students and ensured that these protocols are followed. So it is all, so that is becomes an experience for them. They are seeing practical experiences, how they are able to prevent all these. Same way, I can share a PPT later for you, not a PPT, and a Word document about how to limit the students' usage of cell phones. See, nowadays it's a great problem, isn't it? A severe, but we cannot stop them from using it at all. Like we had online classes or anything, whatever the projects we give, we tell them to go in Google and search and all those things. So we cannot do away with technology, but how to limit the usage of cell phones? Educate them in the proper usage. Of course, they have the gaming session, and there may be a few who will go for all unwanted things also. But it is our duty, or show them how by different things that it is possible to limit your cell phone usage and concentrate, especially when they are in their very important age of their board exams of 10th, 12th standard and all those things. Because I don't want to go on harping on case study. Already half an hour we have done on it. So I just thought I will tell you how to go about using case study in the classroom. So addressing questions like these lead students to identify topics they need to learn more about. In researching the first question, for example, about the cafeteria, you may need to research food chains and nutrition. Students often ask why they need to learn something when they use their knowledge in future. What is the use of it in the future? See, this also yesterday Janaki ma'am said about business letters and other things. So we have to pitch in where it will be useful in future. if they don't get a concrete reply from us, then they will not like to go about doing these things. So we should ensure that the students, what they are learning will be useful for them in their practical world later on. So learning is most successful for students when the content and skills they are studying are relevant. That's what. So case studies offer one way to create that sense of relevance, especially when we are giving them the practical experience or day-to-day experience. So I'm coming now slowly to the poem that we are going to learn, The Road Not Taken. So the road not taken is also where it's a very important decision the poet has to make. He comes to the road. There is a fork in the road. Fork means what? It separates into two different roads. So which road to take? He is really little confused. He is very indecisive. Both looks alike for him. Yes. So from our experience, from his experience of looking at all those things, he decides which road to take. So that's where we bring in our experiential learning. We come to the next part of the PPT, that where we are going to use the next one is the experiential learning. So this experiential learning, actually in my PPT, it is the spelling mistake is here. It is given experimental learning. I'm sorry about it. It is actually your experiential learning. So in experiential learning, 4 important factors. It is like a cycle. You can do any way you want. So first is your concrete experience, your own experience. Like you have the KWL. What is KWL? What you know, what you want to know, what you have learned. So it is called the KWL theory. So actually we are using this here in our experiential learning. So first will be from our experience, what our concrete experience that we have had, that we make the decision. So how did you all do up in the warm-up activity? What decision you took? You took that your family life comes more important, or your job satisfaction, spending more time with the family and friends. How did you come to that decision? What you already have gone through your experience, isn't it? To a certain extent, it is your experience that made you to choose this company. Yes or no? Please, teachers, why don't you also be little?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Like to have an
Yes,
interaction,
ma'am.
not all the time we talk. Please, it is more helpful, more encouraging for me also to put forth my ideas. Okay, help me out, please. I want some response from you all, please, teachers. I know you all store
Sure, ma'am.
you have plethora of knowledge, but please leave your inhibitions. We have to teach you. We are going to teach students to be more confident and come out with their ideas. So unless otherwise you come out with your ideas, I am also unable to go ahead. Okay. Yes. So that is your concrete experience that makes you go for the first decision. Then after taking up the decision, what you do, your experience made you to take up this decision. So you reflect on it. Reflect on it means you weigh the pros and cons. You choose that and then you weigh the pros and cons. So that pros and cons, what did you weigh for the company? You thought, yes, I need more time with my family. The salary can be less, or I need my job satisfaction. I don't want to take up both the responsibilities, this side and that side. Both responsibilities is not possible by me. I may not be able to make my children or my family suffer because of my job. So you started reflecting on your experience. Third is you make the concrete decision. You analytical skills you use. Yes, I can manage only this much, so I'm going to take up company 2 and they do the work there, whatever is going to be given. You use your analytical skill to conceptualize your experience. The final thing is you solve your problem. What is your final problem? you act according to what your decision is. You have first, before taking the decision, you rely on your experience. Second is you reflect on your experience. Okay, I am going to take up this decision. Let me weigh the pros and cons, see whether it will work for me. The third one will be whether, yes, I have thinking this is better. So I will, for me, my goals is set. I'm going to take up this. And you then, fourth one is you work towards your goal. So this is what the poet does in the poem here also. What does he do? You all read through the poem. I just go for the synopsis of the poem for you all. What he does, because some teachers, if you have not handled this poem, road not taken, he comes to the fork of a road and he is unable to take up a decision because both the roads look same, alike. Both roads is not trodden, not walked about. Both the roads is filled up with yellow leaves. So both road looks alike. So what he decides, okay, let me leave the first one for later time. And he takes up the second road. Thinking that because the second road, even he decides that he will take up second road, but before taking the second road also, he makes a lot of thorough inspection. He's trying to see maximum till the end, till where the bushes and trees have grown, till that where he could see the road till the end, he is able to see. And he starts walking towards, then he takes up the decision. So his goal is set, he's going to take up the second road. So he goes walking through the second road. But after walking through the second road, he has again the puzzle, the confusion in him. Oh, is it right that I have taken the second road? Should I have taken the first one? But then he decides, okay, it is all right. I may take it up another day. Then it is actually the road of life that Robert Frost is taking. So then he comes to the end of his age, almost towards the last bit of his life. He has finished taking up the second road completely. And he now gives a sigh. What does he mean? Sigh means generally we give a sigh of relief. Sometimes a sigh is compared to mourning of sickness. So you can interpret it in two different ways. Now the poet has decided that he cannot take up on any condition the first road. It's not possible for him to go back. See, once the decision is made, can we, when we have taken up this career as teaching, can we go back and again start something else? We can only take up a decision which is connected towards our career. From a teacher, I can become a resource person, I can become a coordinator, or try to go up on the ladder. But can I go back and take up a position, another profession completely? Is it possible by me?
No, ma'am.
It is not possible. That's what the poet says. I have already taken up the second road. So first, when he's taking the second road, he thinks, I may go back to the first road some other day when he's halfway through the second road. Yes. Then he goes to when he gives a sigh of, it can be as, we can take it two ways you can interpret. He gives a sigh of relief that he has taken up the second road. He has done well. He has had a wonderful experience. He has done very well. But another way you can interrupt the poem is, because the poem, if you read, it is only creating a gloomy mood. Another thing is, when he gives a sigh, he feels whether he has taken up the right decision. It happens to everybody at the end of their life, isn't it? If you ask old people or people who have finished their career, if you ask them, they may think, oh, I might have gone to a better job. I should have done it that time itself when my parents told, but I took up this. Isn't it? Don't we feel it sometime when they are in our middle age itself, leave alone going up to the old age? How many of us, because I am in my old age, I think we have these kind of doubts. So that's why he's giving a sigh that he was not able to do it completely. So if you take up, it is this, he's talking about road of life. Who's talking about road of life? The poet is talking about road of life. See, if you take Robert Frost's life itself, first he has not got any degree. He has not completed his high school. He went to Harvard University, but he didn't finish his education there. He came back to poetry. He came back to farming. He did his farming, but then he thought, then his poems became very popular. Then he became a very great poet. He was well recognized. He had a lot of laurels to his credit. He attained so many medals and awards was conferred on him. All this happened to him. But he had a sense of indecisiveness throughout his career because he had 6 children. But his wife completed his graduation. So he would have had his indecisiveness. So that's what reflects in this poem. But there is a positive side to the same poetry. We can take it up. See, that's what I wanted to say. It is our experience. When people talk about road not taken, we can take this poem in a positive side. How this can be your reflective thinking or your creative thinking that you can give it to your students. Ask them to talk about the positive side. What ideas can you pitch in for them when you say the road not taken? It is often quoted quotation nowadays for the road not taken. For the students actually who tend to fail, who's not academically good, we can cite examples of Bill Gates, who was a school dropout, but he was so well versed in something else. So he was not immediately accepted. Even our great president, our late president, Abdul Kalam ji, what did happen to him? The first mission he did was a failure. They thought that we are not going to launch the satellite. Yes, the first one which he failed as a scientist. But where did he go up finally? Where did he reach? The highest order in life, he became the president of our country. Isn't it? So, and even a simple thing you can tell the students for experiential learning, you can tell the students like what? See, a satisfaction. You all wrote about job satisfaction. You can tell the students when they have studied hard for the exam and when they get the marks, how happy and excited they are, so very expectantly waiting to get the results. And if the results is to their satisfaction, how happy they feel. They have gone through hardships to learn, because we are as teachers, for us, it is very simple for us to teach them. But when they have come to their standard of 10th standard level or 9th standard level, put in hard work, a simple getting full mark in their test, how happy they feel. But they have struggled for it. They didn't get it very easily, isn't it? There were boys who were taking it, it's only English, I can do it. Because always English is it's like a stepmotherly treatment for our language. They think maths and science is only thing important for them, especially when they come to 9th and 10th standard. The parents themselves say, don't concentrate so much. You will have to go for 11th and 12th. You have to take science group. How many times we have heard this? Isn't it? So they give always to language a stepmotherly treatment. So, but the boys who are really concentrating on that also and getting good marks, they really feel very satisfied, very happy. So these examples you can put forth to them to take up their experiential learning. So this kind of things we are already doing it in the class, but we are not telling this as the pedagogy that we are using, the experiential learning. We are not putting this word. You may think, oh, experiential learning is a big word. No, nothing. We are already doing it in the class, the same thing. We are encouraging students. We are telling them hard work is very important. We are showing examples. We are teaching them from our experience, and we are telling them. So we have to tell them when they are going for this, what you have to show, how to apply it in the poem. Tell them to list a few of short-term goals and long-term goals for the students. Ask them to use short-term and long-term goals. When they themselves sit down and jot down and write, short-term goals will be for them they're going to have a party with their friends today evening, whether my parents will allow me or not. Or where shall I go for, will I be able to watch the football match? Tomorrow being a test or exam in the school, will my parents allow me at least to watch the score? Will I be able to see IPL matches? Should be their short-term goals. But when it comes to long-term goals, you ask them to set goals for themselves. What will be their long-term goals? Naturally, when they are in their formative years of 10th standard and 12th standard, it will be their career to join in a better college, choose a proper career, because that's going to be their future. As Sir correctly pointed out, make them to be confident, learn, extract experiences from their own family, from their grandparents, spend time with them, and see how spiritual, for a value based, more than spiritual, I want to put values, how to inculcate values. All this is got from the family itself. They need not go out and get experiences. If they spend more time with their uncles, their cousins, see what is happening, how is the peer group working? When they go into, if you see, tell me your friend, I'll tell you whom you are. So instead of always going into peers, we can also relate them to ask them to spend more time with their grandparents, with their parents themselves, and also talk. See, nowadays after 10th standard, we are seeing so many suicidal attempts and all those things, because they don't have the comfortable family life to open up their ideas to their parents, to put across their problems. They should somewhere see the children of today, they are more into their cell phones and playing games. They don't have the confidence like earlier days, because we have all been brought up in joint families. We had siblings, more number of siblings where we could share. Nowadays, one or two. Now, coming to the next part of the thing is, so we have seen how two pedagogies we were able to imply or apply in the poem, The Road Not Taken. Next, what? Art integrated learning, how we can implement art integrated learning in this poem that we are going to see. See, those boys who are, or girls, or the students who are good in drawing, we can ask them to draw the road, the fork. Then there are a lot of symbolism in this poem. If you see, the road itself symbolizes the journey of life. Now coming to the first line, the yellow wood. The yellow wood symbolizes so many things. The yellow color leaf, when does the leaf turn yellow? During the season of autumn. So we can see the season here. Next, it is also, if you see, yellow is a color, middle color. It's neither red or white, pure. It is a center color. So when it is a center color, the mood of indecision is also seen here when we are seeing the color yellow. Then, but when it comes to white, of course, it symbolizes peace and purity. All of you know that. It is a very simple one. But he is using another thing as called had trodden black. When does the leaves turn black? By people stamping on it. Isn't it? So here again, black is a symbol of mourning, gloomy, all this. So again, when he sees that this road has not been used by people, again, he is in a dilemma. Because this road has not been touched, it has been left untouched. People have not walked on the road. So that is why the leaves are still yellow only, not turned black. This had trodden black. If you see, it is coming in the third stanza of the poem. So almost throughout the poem, the poet is feeling a sense of indecision. A dilemma keeps going in his mind. Finally, in the final stanza only, he is giving a sigh of relief. Okay, that is what I have taken. I have only taken the second road. Now there is no sense of going back. It is not possible. So what I have made the decision, it is right. We have to accept. So these things we can incorporate when it comes to art integrated learning. Next, coming into what are all the literary devices that are being used here? See, we are seeing so many literary devices, but how to make the students identify the literary device is more important than, see, I have given here in this PPT, if you see, what are the literary devices that are used in the poem. It's just for your reference. But actually, we have to teach them how to identify the literary device. See, what is metaphor? Metaphor is a very, very, very common literary device that is being used in most of the poetry and prose. Can anyone tell me what is a metaphor? How to identify a metaphor? Is it possible, any of you? Only Anantaraman sir has been talking. What about the rest of you all? Can anyone tell me how it is possible? Valli ma'am has left.
No, ma'am, I'm here.
Valli ma'am, can you, since you have been handling 9th and 10th, is it Valli ma'am possible? Or
Both are
anybody else can be, since I know a few names, I'm just calling like that. It's not so. So Valli ma'am or Subhashini ma'am, anybody can just volunteer to tell me how to identify a metaphor, either in a poetry or in a prose.
It's just a comparison, ma'am.
It's just a comparison to life. Very common things. Yes, very true.
There is in simile we will use as like.
No, in similes we use like and as and as, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am. So in
Without
simile we
as
use
and
that,
like,
but in metaphor.
In metaphor,
But metaphor we won't use.
yes, that's right. In metaphor, we don't. See, for example, if you take the road in the poem, it is comparing it to the road of life. But it's not saying explicitly, openly, the road is as clear as the journey of life. The traveler doesn't say it is the journey of life. We only come, same way fork if you take. It is the fork on the road is metaphorically gives a choice we can make, determine our lives. Then coming to yellow woods, making decisions during hard times of a person's life. These are all metaphors. How can we identify the metaphor? We can identify the metaphor. It is just a comparison, but without comparing it by using the words as and as or like, just like how we do it for simile. So if you see the third one, it is a device used to compare unfamiliar things with familiar ones. Like for in the second stanza, just as fair. Here the poet has linked the road less traveled to the hard ways through life. Isn't it? Just as fair. So here the difference between metaphor and simile is just a slight line of demarcation that we'll have to teach our students to identify much better. Then of course imagery. Imagery is what if you can close our eyes and read the poem. For us, in front of us, the yellow leaves that is all fallen down on both the sides of the roads. It is like kindling our five senses with the use of words. That is imagery. See, it is used to make the readers feel things through their five senses. Even if you close your eyes and read, somebody is reading narrating the poem, reading out the poem for you. You will be able to easily visualize the yellow leaves, the trees all over, the bushes, the road, the fork, and all those things. The poet has linked the road less traveled to the hard way through a hard way of the life. Next, coming to personification. Personification is also used here. How, see, non-living things are given the characteristics of a human being. That is called as personification. See here what is it? The grassy and wanted bear. Here, what is it? Wanted bear means, is it necessary that the leaves have to have, or the road have to have wear and tear like human beings?
No, used, ma'am.
Used only, it is used. But why we call that as personification? The third line in the second stanza, we call it because it was grassy and wanted bare. See, it is human beings we undergo through ages wear and tear. Road is a non-living thing. But here the poet is comparing the road that it is not having as a wear and tear. So that is why we call this line as a personification. He is giving the qualities of a person, the characteristic of a human being for the road. Like we human beings or machines go undergoing wear and tear. which is being regularly used, road being regularly used. So he's personifying the road here as if that it needs to be having, it should have wear and tear like the humans, human qualities. So that is personification. Next is alliteration. See, alliteration is starting of the words of the same letter of the word is being used. Same alphabets, wanted, where. Both here you have the sound of W here. Wanted, where. Picture, post. When we use such phrases which have got the same, starting with the same alphabetical sound, more of sound, alphabetical sounds, then we call it as alliteration. We have other literary devices, to name a few, like when you say onomatopoeia. Many a times you would have used onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is nothing but what you will say. Onomatopoeia is nothing but the word itself will have the sound. Like when I use the word bang,
Tinkling.
the sound is reflected in the word. The spellings, if you see, onomatopoeia, bang, clash, as if two things are clashing, but the word itself sounds like the clash happening. Or clunk, boo, bomb, all that it also reflects the sound. The word itself reflects the sound. That is called as onomatopoeia. Then next one, because those things are not used here, I thought I will just name a few here. One more is like oxymoron. Oxymoron is what?
Opposite words.
Opposite
Yes,
things
very
coming
correct.
together.
Yes, opposite words. Like when I say act naturally. When I use the word act naturally, acting itself what? It's pretension. How can you act naturally? Isn't it an oxymoron? When I say act naturally, it becomes an oxymoron. Okay. So these are some, shall I stop sharing the PPT? Yes. See, these are some of the things which we can use, some of the pedagogies that are there, which can be used in while teaching a poetry. To sum up, can I quickly go over what I was having it in the PPTs to show you? So I took up Robert Frost as the case study for the poem. So case study is that we do it with a practical experience, nothing that can be read or done. So we use case study in the classroom to correct so many things in the students, or we involve them in different projects to do a case study, which will help them to enhance their skills. So in all these things, we use this case study. Then when coming to experiential learning, what we do, how can we use this in this particular poetry teaching? We first start by, I started by giving you a warm-up activity with whatever you know, where I use the KWL. KWL is what? What you know, what you want to learn,
What you know, what you want to know, what you learn.
what you learned. So these are the three important factors in experiential learning also. You have four actually in the experiential learning. The first one is their experience counts. With their experience, they are able to make come to a conclusion. After coming to a conclusion, they reflect on, they weigh the pros and cons. Then the third one is their abstracting, they bring it to a concept. The abstracting of their goal, what they do, they think, they set goals for themselves with their which they have chosen, they do that. And then fourth one is they act upon what they have to achieve it. This is what actually experiential learning, which we are already doing it in our classes. Aren't we doing it actually in the classes? So many times we have done it. So here in this, we come to the decision making, telling the students to keep up a short-term, long-term goals, how to go about achieving it, writing the pros and cons, how they are not not able to do certain things when they come to us, how we should have to help them out. These things we should have to tell them. Then how art integrated learning can also be incorporated in this. Which are the things we saw in art integrated learning. Then the last one is, what are the literary devices that we have used in this, which we looked into in this poem, to sum it up.